Good morning. I'm Marianne Graff, and this is the Forum Program. We're going to talk about multiple sclerosis, MS, today, and with me is Samantha Villella, who's a part of KV's crew, and she's been with us before on the Forum Program to talk about the things associated with MS and what KV's crew is all about. Sam, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me again today, Marianne.
Well, there's a reason we're kind of getting together. This is really about awareness when it comes to MS. It's that time of year you kind of set aside to really talk about it, right?
Oh, you just didn't want to talk to me just for a half an hour, friend?
We could do that as well, because we can go on and on for a long time, but we want to let everybody else know what's going on with MS. I think that's important, especially in this area.
I think they'd rather hear that than hear you and I have a casual conversation.
Maybe so.
MS Awareness Week begins on Sunday, March 7th through Saturday, March 13th.
Okay, so during that week, what's the idea behind just that week? I mean, really, you can make it a whole month's time, but there's so much to talk about and make people aware of, correct?
Correct. So the MS Society acknowledges MS Awareness Week. There are a lot of other MS organizations and people throughout the MS community that acknowledge MS Awareness Month in March. And there are other organizations who have that trademark and celebrate that. So it's sort of a combination. The society, again, acknowledges the week. So during that time, those of us that are with the society and involved in the society, they ask us to be bringing extra awareness and education to those living with multiple sclerosis, to their families, to caregivers, to care partners, just really spreading that awareness. If you want to have some fundraising events, we'll be prepping this month for our virtual public policy conference. Normally that's something that I attend in Washington, D.C. So there is just a heightened awareness that is happening during this time of year.
Okay, and you have a lot of information to pass along. Unfortunately, with KV's crew, this is so personal for you because of your mom and your sister, and that's really how your organization, KV's crew, came about, right?
Yes, absolutely. So my mom was diagnosed with primary progressive MS in 2008. They had said she had probably been living with it 10 years prior. And that's when I sort of threw myself into learning more about multiple sclerosis and being involved. And our family started, of course, with our walk team. That is our roots. That is where we come from. That is how I became involved in the society. And then from there, I got into advocacy and really threw myself into it even more once Nikki was diagnosed in 2014, which, interestingly, it'll be 7 years on March 10th that she was diagnosed. It's hard to believe, right?
Well, it's amazing, you remember those dates, I'm sure, in your mind when you found out the diagnosis, I'm sure.
I can remember it very clearly. I was at work and she had gone for MRI and the nurse said, "You'll hear from the doctor by the end of the day." And I thought, that is not good. And I remember my dad calling me, nothing abnormal for him to call, on a Monday on his way. He was, before retiring, a college professor at Kent State Salem. It was nothing for him to call on his way to school to talk during the day. I was in a meeting for the job that I was in at the time, and I couldn't talk to him. So I remember going to the restroom and coming out of the restroom and my phone ringing. And I picked it up. It was my dad again. And I remember him, just the silence on the phone, and I could hear in his voice. And he said, the doctor called, Nikki has MS. And I just slid right down the wall.
Yeah.
I just slid right down the wall because I knew what we were in for. And that began her journey.
Yeah. And really, and it's all of your journeys, the entire family, because you guys come together to deal with this.
MS infects, and I'm stealing this from a friend of mine that I've met in the MS community, but he always says MS infects the individual, but it affects the entire family and their friends. And that could not be more true.
Yeah. And your mom and your sister, they're two different types of MS, really.
Yes. So my mom lives with primary progressive, which from the very beginning, as the name states, it's a very progressive type of multiple sclerosis. Nikki lived with relapsing remitting MS, which is the more common form of multiple sclerosis.
I've heard people say in this area, in Northeast Ohio, the incidence of MS is higher than a lot of other areas. Is that true, Sam? Have you heard the same? Not that we have the actual facts, but do you hear that said?
Yes. So back in the 70s, there was a prevalence study that was done, and the number that the researchers, the society, and people in the MS community used was 400,000 individuals living with multiple sclerosis in the United States. The MS Society took it upon themselves with other organizations, and they did a prevalence study again, because what happens is when that number isn't relative, Marianne. And so when our researchers are competing for grants and they're doing these amazing research projects, they don't have accurate data. And we needed to get data because that was from the 70s, that was more current. So they do this new prevalence study, and they find out that we are closer to 1 million individuals living with multiple sclerosis.
Wow.
And so within that 400,000 number, they used to say that, and I can't even remember offhand because that number has been so long ago.
Yeah.
I think it was like 20-some thousand individuals, maybe 30,000 individuals in Ohio live with MS. And I apologize to the listeners. That number is probably not correct, and I should have had that. I forget. But that the majority of them were in Northeast Ohio.
Wow. Yeah. That's scary.
It is, because you begin to wonder what it is environmental triggers. Is it something that's happening in our area? Is it food supply, water? There's so many questions that people have as to why it's so prevalent. We do know that there is a connection with vitamin D. So the farther north you come from the equator, we don't get the sunshine as much. So there are more people that are farther north that MS is more prevalent as well.
Some interesting things to think about. And I've got to say, knowing your mom, your sister, your family, I think the one thing I've learned from you guys, you deal with this in such a good way. And I know there are probably moments that you don't, but looking at you guys, what you do, you deal with it with your dad, a lot of humor, a lot of, lightheartedness to try to get through the days. I'm sure when the days can be the toughest ever.
Yes. And I will say, if I could backtrack for one moment, my numbers were accurate. 20,000 in Ohio, 14,000 in Northeast Ohio. But again, those are based off of the 400,000 number.
Wow.
I don't believe we've been updated based on the close to the 1 million. But to answer that question, Marianne, thank you. And there are dark days, there are dark moments. There are times where my dad says, to listen to mom and to see what she goes through. We're not there every day as kids, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, but we do use humor, and we do everything we are able to do with her, especially her, because she's wheelchair bound, because
Right. I know.
It is so important to live life to the fullest. And that is why Nikki and my mom and MS has become my why. It's my mission. Everyone should be able to live their best life possible, regardless of the circumstances. Medicines are expensive, whether you live with multiple sclerosis or another illness or another terminal illness or another disease. There is care that is involved. There is accessibility issues. My dad says all the time, when you can't walk, it changes the landscape. And so we begin to see that people around us look at it differently as well. So it is enough to live every day with something such as multiple sclerosis and have your family helping take care of you, because that is a lot, Marianne. That is a lot, and that is more than enough, because that might be all you can handle. But Sam Villella says, I'm taking it to the next level. And not only are we as a Villella family going to do that, but we are going to shout it from the rooftops. And it's not because we want sympathy or we want people to feel sorry for us. It's just not. It's because I truly believe that it opens doors and that we are able to help others understand, to educate, to build acceptance that we are doing something good, not only for those living with MS and their families, but for other people going through life's adversities.
And I can see that through the work that you do, what a difference it makes to talk about it, to educate people about it, to understand that people who have MS or other diseases, that they need the help that can come from the world out there and how they can process that.
100%. And it's not for Nikki. She even though Nikki lives in the group of individuals, the most common form of multiple sclerosis, they call MS the snowflake disease because it does affect everyone differently.
Mm-hmm.
So think of a disease that might be a little bit more common that we're more familiar with. When you hear that someone's diagnosed with that, you usually know the path that that's going to take, or the treatment that that's going to take, or whether that's going to be something they can live with for a very long time. But with multiple sclerosis, each person's different. I can think of 10 people off the top of my head that all live with relapsing, remitting MS like Nikki, and not one of them have the same symptoms. Not one of them is affected the same way. They're like, Nikki responds very well to her disease-modifying therapy, and she lives, you wouldn't even know she lives with multiple sclerosis. And a lot of the symptoms they have are not visible. They're invisible symptoms.
Yeah.
But they're all different for people based on, they're just individual. It's why it's called the snowflake.
The snowflake. And we're going to take a short break because we have more to talk about when it comes to MS and KV's crew, what that organization does locally. We're back with a Forum program. We've been talking about multiple sclerosis. This is the week highlighted to educate ourselves a little bit more about it. Samantha Villella with KV's crew has been with us. We talked a lot about how it directly has affected your family, Sam, and you are on a mission now to make a difference when it comes to other people who are also affected by it. You're part of a group that goes to Washington every year.
So I am a district activist leader with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society with the Ohio Buckeye chapter. I also sit on their Government Relations Advisory Committee. Each year in March, we take time to gather across the country. So it is all types of it's people living with MS, it's district activist leaders, government relation, bloggers. There's people that have different roles as well as staff members. We all go to Washington, D.C. for a few days in which we spend 2 days learning about the public policies that are going to be brought before the legislators, not only while we're there in Washington, D.C., but throughout the year. They educate us. They thoroughly give us background on the funding we're asking for. Usually each year we're asking for funds for the MSRP. And everything, by the way, in government, Marianne, has an acronym. So it's taken me a long time to learn all of that. But the MSRP is through the CDMRP. It's a high-impact, high-risk project, research projects that are funded through the Department of Defense, because we have nearly 70,000 American veterans living with multiple sclerosis. And then we have our funding for the NIH, which is the National Institutes of Health. And so that is where they're doing research projects that complement. People always say, well, wait, you're getting money for this MSRP and you're getting money from the NIH, for the NIH, but these are complementary. They work together, right, with the funding. So we've got high impact, high risk, and then we've got the lower risk, high reward type of fund research that's happening. So in the NIH, they're doing different type of fundraising research that's happening with the MSRP. And then our other funding that typically has been asked for over the last couple of years is for the National Neurological Condition Surveillance System. And that is something that was passed when I first became a DAL through the 21st Century Cures Act. And what it is it's this program, Marion, that is so cool. So there are two neurological disorders, multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's, that they're implementing as the two pilot programs where they're going to create this database nationally of prevalence and incidence to explore demographic characteristics, disease burden, and they're using those two diseases to start. So when I talked before the break about the prevalence study that the society did, they then took all that information and gave it to the CDC to jumpstart their MS research portion of this new program. So it's so important, and I want the listeners to know how important research is. Yes, it is very important to have the fundraisers, Bike MS, Walk MS, Muck MS, all the individual fundraisers like KV's crew does that we give back to the society, because ultimately what we're going for is a cure. And a cure, Marianne, means something different to everyone. So the MS Society right now says we're about stopping, restoring, and ending. We want to stop disease progression. We want to restore what's been lost, and we want to end MS forever. So with my mom, I look at it as I want to restore what's been lost for her. Mm-hmm. To me, that would be a cure for my mom. For Nikki, I want the cure to be to stop disease progression so that she never gets worse than she is right now, that the MS never progresses anymore. And then ultimately we want it so that nobody has to hear those words, you have multiple sclerosis. We don't ever want to hear that again.
Have you seen any headway made in this? Because, there's no cure yet, as you said.
Absolutely. I think that people who live with multiple sclerosis or other illnesses, you want it to be instant. I don't live with multiple sclerosis, so I can't relate to that, but I can understand you want that cure right now, today. But now more than ever is a time to be hopeful. The disease-modifying therapies, they're growing every year. When I first started to become involved with the MS Society, Marianne, there was maybe 10, 12 disease-modifying therapies.
Yeah.
And now I think we're close to 20, 21.
Oh, wow.
So they are making breakthroughs every day. They're making headway. And now more than ever, it is a time to be hopeful. And the research that we're doing, so on the CDMRP, these research projects, they're cutting edge. And each year, more funding is being presented to these researchers. And that's a whole conversation we could have on a different day about how that process happens. It's peer review, and people with MS are on this committee. But they're giving out these projects. And a friend of mine has sat numerous times on this, and he always says to me, Sam, if this year we have X amount of dollars and we can fund X amount of projects, let's just hypothetically say the number's 10, based on the dollars we have. What if it was the 11th project that would have been the one? What if it was? Because that's how groundbreaking the research projects are that these individuals are working on. And to make sure people know, the MS Society is the largest private organization supporting MS research globally.
Wow. And like you said, there's so many now local organizations that are kind of like pitching in for the fight too, including yours.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we take all of the funds. We are very pleased to let people know we don't keep, other than some small administrative to run the website and pay for the P.O. box. Nobody in the Villella family is drawing a salary from KV's Crew. I'm speak on to Brent. He would really love to get a salary, but we donate it all back. We donate to the Oak Clinic. Mm-hmm. We donate to the MS Society for research projects. We've also donated to both Nikki and my mom's MS doctors at the Cleveland Clinic Mellon Center for research projects that they're involved in. Research is so important, but so are MS programs. So are our MS navigators. So are the fundraisers, because ultimately these are organizations. A lot of people do get upset, Marianne, because we have they have administrative fees, right? They have to go to the general fund. Yeah. Well, we have to have employees that are guiding people like myself. Mm-hmm. Holly is I call her my MS boss. Mm-hmm. I have to have Holly. Holly needs a salary. She has to live. Right. But it's because of her that I'm knowledgeable, that I'm able to accomplish what I do in my advocacy journey, fighting for those with multiple sclerosis and their families.
And you traditionally have a few fundraisers during the year. I know with COVID, everything's kind of, messed that up a little bit. You traditionally in the fall, you have a big fundraiser that is a big dinner, and it's always a fun time. I know that. But you haven't had it because of what's going on.
We did not.
Mm-hmm.
We did not. We do have a date scheduled for this November. We're holding it penciled in. We will see what happens. Obviously, given that we have a lot of people with multiple sclerosis that attend the event, we want to make sure that we're making the best decision for everyone involved. So it is lightly penciled in. We shall see what happens. And if not, we'll be back at it for 2022.
There is a walk this year, correct?
There is. The MS Walk for Canfield. And any of this information, you can go to the National Multiple Sclerosis Society and just look for it there by typing in the search bar. But it is Saturday, May 1st. And to let everyone know, this is 75 years of progress for the MS Society. The MS Society was founded in 1946 by Sylvia Lowry. I think they mark it as March 11th. I had to look at my notes just to make sure. March 11th, 1946. So 75 years of progress the Society is celebrating this year, that they have been around helping those living with MS and their families.
Do a lot of people come up to you? Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
So it's a great time on Saturday, March 1st. May 1st, to go out. It's virtual, so they're not having it like we normally do at a location. Go walk your driveway, walk your neighborhood with your family, by yourself, take a picture, post it on social media with the hashtag WalkMS. If you're able and capable of giving, you can do that online as well. But their events are all virtual this year.
You know, you've shared your story for years. Your family shared this story. How many people have come up to you and just have said maybe, hey, thanks for doing that, because it does bring more awareness and more acceptance of people who have MS and what they're going through?
I do. I get a lot of people say, so-and-so was diagnosed. Can I connect you to them? Can you help them? Can you do this? That to me is worth 1,000 thank yous over and over, because they know that I'm a resource here locally, and I want to be able to connect them to the resources. But I would say it was a few years ago. It was someone in our local community, it's pretty prominent, and came up to me and said, they put their arm around me and they said, they don't live with MS. They just know of what I do because we've become friends. And he said to me, I'm so proud to call you my friend. I'm so proud of what you do every day. And I'm sure you don't hear that often. But he said, I'm really proud of what you're doing for those people. You are an inspiration. And I don't need that. You've known me for a while. I don't need recognition. I like to fly under the radar. But sometimes you need to know that what you're doing is being noticed, that people know where to turn, that people know that there are individuals out there fighting to make a difference in your world. And to have somebody who's not in the MS community take note of that and to tell me that they know I'm making a difference, that is something that I will take with me for the rest of my life. I don't think he will ever know how much he had an impact just with those words he said to me.
He's right about that. I've known you for a few years, and I know what you do right now to bring awareness to multiple sclerosis and everything that goes with it for that person and that family, and it's amazing. Sam, thank you for joining us. We could talk for hours, but we're going to have to wrap it up for today. I appreciate you being on the Forum Show to talk about it and during MS Awareness Week. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just let your listeners know they can find anything they need at the National MS Society. And again, I'm stealing a quote from one of my friends. We're going to work every day until MS means mystery solved.
Thank you, Samantha Villella. And this program has been pre-recorded, can be found on this station's website. And that's Forum. I'm Marianne Graff.